Good morning. What's going on? Excited to be here at Monday morning motivation, bringing the heat this morning. We always want to just be able to add value. And all right, there we go. All right. So today, what we're going to talk about is identifying your center and what specifically that means. But ultimately, I think, hey, maybe it's you. Definitely, we know people like this where, man, everything in their life, it's reactive. They're kind of all over the place. So identifying your center allows us to gain awareness around what actually drives us and ultimately fix what drives us and what should be driving us. And it's very, very important because the most successful people are not reactive, right? They may respond to things that are going on, but they are principle based. All right. So the goal in your life is to be principle centered. But what I want to do is share a bit about this and read a bit about where, hey, maybe your center lies, or definitely you can see different people and how they live their life based upon, and you'll start gaining awareness around this, their center. So you will see this and start understanding this more and more and more about how we live our lives being centered around fill in the blank. Okay, so one of and I'm going to share the different common centers and how they kind of break down and whatnot. And then I would also say this, that when it comes down to your center, like the what you live your life based on determines security and like what you make, it makes you feel secure, guidance and how you're making decisions, power, what empowers you in life, and then wisdom. Okay. So, like the way you think and perceive in life. So, let's really go ahead and break this down a bit. Okay. So, the common centers that people have, and you'll start understanding more and more of this as I kind of dive into this. I just want to go ahead and do that so that we can get as much out of this as possible. So, if you are, for example, spouse centered, your feelings of security are based on the way your spouse treats you, for example, right? If they're having a bad day, then you are not secure in yourself because maybe they're taking it out on you. They got mad at you. You didn't do anything, that sort of thing. You are highly vulnerable to the moods and feelings of your spouse. There is deep disappointment resulting in withdrawal or conflict when your spouse disagrees with you or does not meet your expectations. Anything that may impinge on the relationship is perceived as a threat. Again, this is if your spouse centered, meaning your spouse and the interactions with your spouse determine everything in your life. Guidance, your direction comes from your own needs and wants and from those of your spouse. Your decision making criterion is limited to what you think is best for your marriage or your mate, or to the preferences and opinions of your spouse. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna. All right. So if you're spouse centered, right? We talk about security and then guidance, right? Like what is guiding you? What is that guiding like? Well, it's all about what you feel in that interaction, your relationship, and then the opinions of your spouse. The wisdom, your life perspective surrounds things that may positively or negatively influence your spouse or your relationship. Okay. Your life perspective surrounds things that may positively or negatively influence your spousal relationship. So that's the filter. That's where the wisdom comes. Okay. And then the power, your power to act is limited by weaknesses in your spouse and in yourself. Because if we're talking about the center, it's all about spouse centeredness. Now, there are flaws with all these as we go through them, and you'll see this. But that's spouse centered. Now some people say, like, well, shouldn't I be living my life focused on my spouse? Like if you're married? Yes, but to a degree. If your only purpose in life is the relationship you have with your spouse, then that relationship impinges everything else in your life, right? If you are family centered, your security is founded on family acceptance and fulfilling family expectations. Your sense of personal security is as volatile as the family. Because again, your security is literally through the filter of family. Your feelings of self-worth are based on the family reputation. So that's security. Guidance. Family scripting is your source of correct attitudes and behaviors. Your decision-making criterion is what is good for the family or what family members want. So it's family first, always, which on the surface, you say like, well, family first, like, yeah, like that's great. However, if it's always that way, like think about this, like, man, I treat my kids first, I put them first, they're the most important thing to me. But above your spouse, that's actually the problem that many marriages have today. Okay. You interpret, and this is the wisdom, you interpret all of life in terms of your family, creating a partial understanding and family narcissism. Think about that. When people do say things like family first, right? That sounds great. The problem is that you're limited in your view because the whole world does not revolve around your family. Okay. So let's see. Actions are limited, family centered. Now, if we look at now, and this is one, I think family centered is one that a lot of people think they actually are family centered. Now, again, all of these are incorrect. All of these are incorrect. But they all have strengths, they all have weaknesses. But a lot of people think they're family centered, but in actuality, they are self centered. But money centered, your security, your personal worth is determined by your net worth. And we know people like this, which, when they have more money, they start making more money. It's like that pursuit. Work, make more money because that's their worth. That's their security. You are vulnerable to anything that threatens your economic security. Guidance. Profit is your decision-making criteria. And what that means is, like, you think in terms of decisions that you're making. If it's like date night, for example, with your wife, right? One of the ways to keep your marriage alive is to continue to pursue your spouse even after you marry them. That's why dating is exciting, and for most people, marriage is empty because they're no longer in pursuit. But you think about this: the person that is money centered would say, like, "Hey, babe, like, we can't do our dates tonight. I got to work." Because money and making money is more important than investing into your marriage. So profit is your decision-making criteria. Wisdom. Money making is the lens through which life is seen and understood, creating imbalanced judgment. Again, money first. And then the power. You are restricted to what you can accomplish with your money and your limited vision. Now, work-centered, this is similar, but it's not just about the money. It's about feeling obligated to always be working, and share, if you're watching this live, which one resonates with you, or if you are connecting the dots with anyone in your life that you see this, or maybe the way that you were raised, whatever. So if you're work-centered, your security, you tend to define yourself by your occupational role. Uh, well, and this is, I mean, I've always made jokes about this. Like when you have someone who has some sort of title, and like they always include it in their name. Like, well, I'm a doctor. Like, okay, well, you're work centered because all of the time you put in to get, and there's nothing wrong with it, but all of the time that you put in, that has now determined your identity. It's like, dude, I have this title. It's who I am now. Everything centers around it. Long hours at work. It makes me feel good. That sort of thing. Okay. So you tend to define yourself by your occupational role. You are only comfortable when you are working. So you feel empty. You feel less than. You feel incapable unless you're performing that role. And then guidance. You make your decisions based on the needs and expectations of your work. Hey, we're going to need you. Okay, absolutely. I'll be there. I'll work extra. I don't care if my wife suffers. I don't care if my kids suffer. I don't care if I miss the sporting event. I don't care if I miss other commitments because work is most important. I think maybe a lot of people can relate to that, especially in certain families. All right. And then you tend, in terms of wisdom, you tend to be limited to your work role and you see your work as your life. It's the most important thing. Now, there are certain circumstances where maybe there is some purpose behind what you do for work. But ultimately, for example, if I'm a high performance coach, if I'm a business consultant, if I'm an entrepreneur, those things are important. But at the same time, I took on other commitments as well, right? I'm married, I have multiple children, raising those children, growing in my marriage, those are parts of my purpose too. So one of the words that, you know, some people feel is kind of icky is balance, but it is true and it should be basically principle centered. Then the power, your actions are limited by work role models, occupational opportunities, organizational constraints, your boss's perceptions, and your possible inability at some point in your life to do that particular work. If you're possession centered, your security is based on your reputation, your social status, tangible things you possess. Can't take it with you when you die. So even though nice things are nice, even though they can make life easier and more fun, that should not be your identity. All right. You tend to compare what you have to what others have. So again, we're going through this list of how many people center their lives, the identity that they have in their lives. You make your decisions based on what will protect, increase, or better display your possessions. See the world in terms of comparative, economic, and social relationships. You function within the limits of what you can buy or the social prominence you can achieve. You're pleasure centered, right? You feel secure only when you're on a pleasure high. Your security is short lived and dependent upon the environment. You make your decisions based on what give you the most pleasure. You see the world in terms of what's in it for you. Your power is almost negligible because it's always just emotion. Friend centered. So this is the same thing as family, but you're putting your friends first. Your security is a function of your social mirror. You're highly dependent on the opinions of others. Your decision-making criterion is what will they think. You are easily embarrassed. You see the world through a social lens. You are limited by your social comfort zone. Your actions are as fickle as opinion, right? Now, we can continue going with this, but you can look at being enemy-centered, being church-centered. A lot of people that go to church, like they make the busyness of the church their center, their identity. Well, I have this thing at the church. I have this at the church. I'm, on the worship team. I'm this and that. But then you're not actually living your life for God because it's all about your identity coming from the things that you do. And then obviously self-centered. It's always about you, always about what you can get, what I want, what I need, what's in it for me. Okay. So ultimately, what we want to do is be principle centered. But what is that? What does that look like? Being principle centered means that you are clearly defining the morals, the values, the ethics, the virtue that you want to live your life by. So it really comes down to having a mission statement. of your life. Like, this is who I am. This is how I will live. These are the roles that I play. This is what's most important to me. This is how I'll interact with people. This is how I will impact people. And then clearly setting boundaries around that, because many times the best yes is a no. So how do you say no to everything else in your life? Well, it only comes down, and it's really only possible to say no to all the wrong things if you're living a principle-centered life. Well, like I said, most people are not. They're all over the place. Their identity is found in everything other than their true identity, other than who God made them to be. So if you do want to fix your finances, if you do want to fix your marriage, if you do want better relationship with your children, if you just want a better career, if you want to start moving forward in your life at all, you need to start living a principle-centered life so that your power comes from your true identity, so that your guidance, your wisdom comes from your true identity to live an altruistic, impactful, purpose-driven life. So this is deeper than just on the surface, but in terms of the principles, you should be able to, based on your principles, have balance between money, work, possessions, pleasure, friends, enemy, church, self, spouse, all of it. So if you're principle centered, when we look at security, your security is based on correct principles that do not change, regardless of external conditions or circumstances. You know that true principles can repeatedly be validated in your own life through your own experiences. As a measurement of self-improvement, correct principles function with exactness, consistency, beauty, and strength. Correct principles help you understand your own development, endowing you with the confidence to learn more, thereby increasing your knowledge and understanding. Your source of security provides you with an immovable, unchanging, unfailing core, enabling you to see change as an exciting adventure and opportunity to make significant contributions. This is what I will say. If you're not secure in your identity, right, who God made you to be, and the principles, the values that you should be living life by, if what you place your identity in is removed, you will crumble. So, like the person that is work focused and work centered, what happens when they lose that role? Typically, they crumble, they fall apart. Or the person that, like, their friend centered. Well, if something happens with their friendship, like it's so much drama because that was like their purpose came through those relationships. Guidance. You are guided by a compass which enables you to see where you want to go and how you will get there. You use accurate data, which makes your decisions both implementable and meaningful. You stand apart from life situations, emotions, and circumstances. All right, wisdom. Your judgment encompasses a broad spectrum of long-term consequences and reflects a wise balance and quiet assurance. You see things differently, and thus you think and act differently from the largely reactive world. And power. Your power is limited only by your understanding and your observance of natural law and correct principles, and by the natural consequences of the principles themselves. You become self-aware, knowledgeable, proactive, a proactive individual, largely unrestricted by the attitudes, behaviors, or actions of others. Living for your life, living for yourself, living based on purpose. That's what we need. So in terms of Monday morning motivation, I do this every week, but in terms of Monday morning motivation, what's holding you back? What's stopping you? What's hindering you? Many times it's because we're living a very reactive life. So when we say things are important, we don't actually have a deep-seated belief in what is truly important because we don't know who we are. If you start living a principle-centered life, the other things don't matter. You have balance. Like, and this is what comes down from a standpoint of, people talking about time blocking. Well, if you're principle-centered and you know how to prioritize based on those principles, it it becomes really, really easy. You don't have to live reactively anymore. But most people are reactive, which is why they focus on controlling their time, trying to figure out what they need to put time into to be more productive. And success does not come when we just focus on doing things and getting things done. So you might need to use some of the right brain to then execute with the left brain. Being principle centered, not allowing all the things, all the bad habits that we have controlling us anymore. What are you going to do this week to move yourself forward? To start executing, not just theory. I just got off a call with a guy, and it's literally all theory in terms of what he's going to do to get in better shape, what he's going to do to start and run his business. It's all theory. There are a lot of things you could do, and anyone knows that in terms of business, ideas are a dime a dozen. Execution is where success lies. So if you're not willing to execute to get in better shape, kiss it goodbye. If you're not willing to execute to bring in more money, kiss the goal goodbye, because that's all it is. It's just a goal. But a goal, a vision without a plan, it's just a dream. So let it go, release it. Someone else can have the dream. They'll actually do it. They'll actually do better. They'll actually get results. If you want to have your better marriage, if you want to have a better marriage, execute on it. What are you doing? I recommend building better habits around it, pursuing your wife instead of just acting like, you check a box, you got married, it's all good. No. And if you have not yet joined the free My Name is Champion community on School for Men, make sure you do that. All right. Go to school, look up My Name is Champion. It's on there, it's free. We have a champion protocol. It's all about having better daily habits to grow internally, to grow externally. The 4 pillars: power, passion, purpose, and production. That's how you win. And that's how you can start living a principle-centered life. Being in the best shape of your life, not neglecting it just to go make money. But at the same time, being able to produce, not neglecting your body, not neglecting your relationships, focusing on the relationships and walking in greater purpose. That's what life is all about. Life is not about just doing things, wasting all the time you have just to make money, or spending all your time in the gym just to be in great shape, but then living with no real purpose to impact people and help other people. We've been called for greater things. But if you're not willing to execute to be to that point, to not just have the results, but to become better, it's all for naught. So I hope that gives some perspective on this edition of Monday Morning Motivation. Again, we do this every single week. Give me a follow or subscribe if you're wanting to grow, if you're wanting to move yourself forward. Like, change does not occur all at once, but that's what we have in this microwave mentality. The microwave mentality society. Everyone wants change now. Everyone likes the idea of success, but they've yet to fall in love with the word success required. It takes work. Like, we know what to do many times to get in better shape. We know what to do to have a better marriage. We know what to do to go make more money. We just don't execute. And many times it comes down to, we need coaching, we need community, and we need correction, which, again, in our culture today, people don't want. We are very, very independent. We're technologically advanced, so independent. We go live our lives, we do our own things. However, we're more alone than ever. Lonely, empty. And that's not how we should be living. So we need coaching from people who have been there and done that. The most successful people in our society. Like, even if you just look at athletics, well, that's funny because they have coaches. And I'm not just talking about a head coach of a basketball team. I'm talking about they have athletic trainers and they have nutrition coaches to help them perform at their peak. Same is true in business. They have business coaches, they have business consultants to give perspective and wisdom. We need coaching. We also need community. We were not created to live life on our own. And just interacting online is not the same thing. You need community of people that are like-minded doing bigger things, focused on moving forward. Because most of the people, like if I never changed, like after high school and that sort of thing, if I never changed, I would have been surrounded the rest of my life by people that were going nowhere. Not that they're bad people, but they're literally living for the weekend, and all they ever do is talk about the past. So I mean, if you want the past to be the best years of your life, then continue that. But if I never met you and met your five closest friends, I know everything about you. It's just the truth. We are who we associate with. And if you want to advance, associate yourself with people that have better results and be plugged into community of people that you can actually be authentic with and will hold you accountable to raise the bar. It's not about calling you out, it's about calling you up to the next level. A lot of people say they want to be more successful. They say they want to be in better shape. They say it, but they don't actually mean it. And then we need correction, the 3 C's: coaching, community, correction. We need to submit ourselves to those people and allow them to correct us and help us. People don't like that. In our culture today, everyone is right. But the truth is, only one person can be. And if you're not advancing, if you're not moving forward, what are you doing? So get plugged in, join the free community if you haven't already. Leave a comment if this impacts you, if it helps you at all, because that's why we do it. So for another edition of Monday Morning Motivation.